Surly and unhelpful is no way to operate a call center, especially a call center dealing with something as important as unemployment benefits. An accused Capitol insurrectionist gets support from a Denver police leader. The case for real optimism about Colorado's fight against COVID-19 right now. The plan to have extra healthcare workers ready to be called up the next time something like the pandemic happens. And let's make snow days again. Stay toasty, my friends. This is next. Colorado's unemployment call center has been adding insult to economic injury. Out-of-state call takers that you've told us are rude, hang up on you, don't know enough about Colorado's system to be helpful. The state is trying to resolve those problems while also paying that company millions of dollars for its work. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
The landing page for Colorado's unemployment website has 6 key options, the most popular probably being start a claim, manage your claim, or report fraud. Now there's a new option that might get a lot of clicks, report call center issues.
The form's only been around for a couple days and everybody's like, did you use the form? Did you use the form? So at least we have a way to feel like we're getting heard.
You'll remember Erin Joy Swank as the moderator of a Facebook group that helps each other with unemployment issues.
We get more answers a lot of times in our own group. We have little faith in the call center right now.
We requested the contract between the state and the out-of-state call center called Conversion. It began in April 2020, an initial agreement of $700,000. It has been amended 9 times. And as of this week, the state has agreed to pay Conversion a total of $10.5 million, all paid with federal funding. Last week, I asked CDLE Executive Director Joe Barella about hiring a call center out of state that might not have employees fully invested in helping people in Colorado.
Those are choices we had to make on the fly. We're reevaluating that decision. I can tell you, we needed a release valve. They were trained to help people reapply or open a new claim in the new system.
Earlier this week, Acting Unemployment Director Phil Speshart acknowledged the limitations of the Conversion call center and the need for more unemployment staff to call people back.
There are certain calls that the Conversion call center simply does not have the capability to address and handle that our own internal staff would have far more knowledge and be able to handle. Remember, at this point in time, we are still working to increase the number of staff that are within our own CDLE call center to provide those callbacks.
In the meantime, there's the form to report issues with the call center. I guess it's a positive there are only 2 issues to choose from, except the choices are, while speaking with an agent, the agent hung up on me, or unprofessional agent.
I think the unprofessional part has gone down, but we're certainly still getting the hang-ups, but now we have a way to report it so that at least the people feel that they can do something.
I got this update from CDLE this evening. There are 147 local CDLE staff to handle calls, usually the nuanced issues. Conversion has 558 call center staff for Colorado. 91 of them are living in Colorado. So, Kyle, you have a 16% chance of calling that number and getting someone who will call it pop instead of soda.
Marshall, this reminds me a lot of the issues when they started the vaccine information call center, and they were again trying to make that transition from out-of-state call center workers to in-state. Next viewer called up with a question on Montezuma County, and the guy out of state goes, "There's no Montezuma County, Colorado."
I heard from CDLE that Colorado is not the only state dealing with this, so you're going to have the people in other states that don't know the counties of those other states, but that this was federally funded positions that they could hire out to help with issues that Congress created by adding people to the unemployment that might not normally be eligible for unemployment.
All right, Marshall Zellinger reporting. Between the two of us, Marshall, there are 2 grandpas somewhere that are missing their sweaters. Jefferson County is joining Broomfield in looser level blue restrictions tomorrow. That could have been us, Denver, but we were swapping droplets. Our COVID case numbers in the city did not stay below the required level for the full 7 days required. So Denver's got to get those cases back down and keep them there, or else we will be stuck in level orange. And I think we can all agree orange is awful. 14.6% of Colorado's population has their first dose of the COVID vaccine. That is up a few tenths of a percentage point from yesterday. 839,000 people, and more than half of those people are fully immunized. Our hospitalization rate really seems to be plateauing a bit. 374 patients currently, down just 2 patients from the last day, but boy, it's worlds better than where we were a month or 2 ago. I don't know about you, but going through these numbers, look at everything that's happening, I get more optimistic about the situation every day. And so does our point man on COVID-19 coverage, Chris Vanderveen.
I feel the exact same way. We've been through a heck of a year where, think about where we were just a year ago. It wasn't that long ago when we were sort of on the verge of this sort of like really discombobulating experience for all of us. And now here we are, having gone through hopefully the worst of it. And I'm beginning to think that we've gotten most of the people that we really need to get vaccinated. They've been vaccinated. So can we start to see that proverbial light at the end of the tunnel? I'm starting to see it, and I haven't seen that in a very long time.
Chris, where are we on variants? I know that is the looming concern of a lot of scientists and researchers who worry about a wave of variants, especially if they prove to be more resistant to our vaccines.
So we got a number. I looked at the number yesterday. It was around 100, just a shade over 120 variant cases have been identified in Colorado. It is still a very, very small number, and it's not something that, I mean, look, the epidemiologists in the state are worried about it. They believe that particularly the variant that comes from the UK is likely to be the most dominant strain in Colorado come late next month. But if the numbers are still very, very low as they are right now, that's a good sign. Eric France, doctor with the state of Colorado, said today on a call, he said, we're at about 1 out of every 200 people in the state are infected with COVID, and an even smaller, much smaller percentage of that are actually infected with the variant. So it's not good at transmitting. Even though it's more transmissible, the numbers just aren't there to help keep it going. And ideally, it stays that way. The numbers are still very small. They're getting better at identifying it. Not perfect, but if it starts to grow out of hand, you're going to hear about it relatively quickly.
Man, optimism feels good for a change, does it not? My full conversation with Chris is on the next YouTube channel, where I also talk about my experience signing up for a general population vaccine this summer and how it kind of felt like getting in line for the Great American Beer Fest. Hospital staffing shortages. Talk so much about what a worry they were amid the worst of the pandemic. There are state legislators who want to set up what would essentially be like a national guard of extra healthcare workers who could be called up in Colorado. This wouldn't be ready for years, and healthcare workers are burning out right now. Our Anusha Roy looks at the timeline.
During the pandemic, there have been a series of parallel conversations. Kay Rosenthal, a retired nurse, has been trying to get back into work to help.
Still waiting for some human resources and administrative, what I call obstacles.
Meanwhile, Representative Kyle Mullica, an ER nurse, was slammed.
Volume-wise, I've never seen anything like it.
While Representative Yadira Caraveo, a pediatrician, saw her caseload slow down.
You know, there was some guilt on my part, and I think on the part of many other providers.
That's how the idea of a Health Services Reserve Corps was born.
Almost like a national guard of healthcare workers here in Colorado.
It would provide cross-training ahead of time in things like triage and running a ventilator. So there's a network of healthcare workers ready to go during an emergency, and not just for a pandemic, but any kind of emergency, including wildfires and floods.
For example, surgeons with elective surgeries canceled at the start of the pandemic, if they were cross-trained and taking care of hospitalized patients.
Here's the thing, though. The bill idea is coming from a problem now, but if passed, would set up a task force that would deliver recommendations in 2023, and then likely required legislation to stand the program up.
You know, this program may feel like it's kind of, can move at a snail's pace, when the problem's right in front of us.
I wish that, somebody had thought of this 10 years ago and we would have had this ready for this pandemic.
Is there any way to try to make the process more efficient?
We have to go through the process. We have to, go through this to make sure that we're doing the right way, to make sure that we have the buy-in that we need to have for this program.
So the Democratic lawmakers were up front. This is not going to solve burnout and staffing stresses right away, but is trying to make sure Colorado doesn't get caught in the same situation in the future.
Our assumptions about the healthcare force being ready for this were not true.
So the bill passed out of committee yesterday pretty much along party lines. Republicans saying that, this is a good idea, but that it doesn't necessarily need to be written into state law. They were also saying there could be more efficient ways to go about this, within the hospital systems, within the healthcare workers, without the staff being as involved.
And Nusha, I think like a lot of the metrics that we tracked through the worst of the pandemic, it was one of those things where we said like staffing, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, it's getting better, and then we just stopped talking about it. Where is it now?
Yeah, so I actually checked in with the Colorado Hospital Association, and they were saying things are relatively stable right now. That's thanks, right, because the hospitalization numbers had dropped off and more healthcare workers have been vaccinated. But the current issue for a bunch of hospitals, Kyle, is just keeping the vaccination clinics staffed into the foreseeable future.
For sure. All right. Thank you, Nusha. A Coloradan accused of assaulting a police officer at last month's Capitol riot has the support of a Denver police sergeant.
And we have 180 days of school. It wouldn't hurt if we missed 2 or 3, right?
Sounds like the kids can do math on a snow day just fine. Let's talk about making snow days again. Next. A Coloradan charged with attacking a U.S. Capitol police officer in last month's insurrection is now getting some backup from a Denver police sergeant. Prosecutors say that Jeffrey Sable from Jefferson County is the man seen dragging a Capitol police officer down a flight of steps. Sable's friends and family have submitted letters to a federal judge asking for his release ahead of his trial. They talk about his character, say that he's a good man with a kind heart. One person said he got swept up in the emotions of the day. One of the supportive letters was from a sergeant in the Denver Police Department. Name redacted in the letter, but the officer begins by referencing his or her rank. The letter from the DPD officer blames the media for painting a picture of Sable that is, quote, inconsistent with the good moral character of the Jeff I know. Denver police released a statement when we asked about that endorsement. DPD leaders said they are extremely disappointed a member of their force would submit a letter of support for one of the people arrested at the insurrection, especially considering that he is accused of assaulting a member of law enforcement.
Clear, cold, and calm tonight after a storm that brought a foot of snow to Denver. That storm is well east of the area. Now we're setting our sights on the next one, due into the mountains over the weekend. A little bit of mountain snow, but Denver's headed for sunshine and a warming trend starting Friday and right into the weekend. Tonight will be chilly, though, with fair skies and light winds. Our temperature in the mid-teens. After a cold start, lots of sunshine tomorrow, and we do manage low to mid-40s. I did put a 20% chance of snow showers for the foothills in on Saturday. Won't worry too much about that. And then check out the warming trend, close to 60 by Wednesday of next week.
I imagine Corey Reppenhagen's wife coming downstairs this morning to find Corey pacing by the sliding glass door like a dog anxiously waiting to go out in the snow. Why Corey would not just open the door and let himself out, I don't know, but that's how I picture it, okay? The dude likes the snow and poetry.
Corey Reppenhagen is on the weather beat.
The big one has come. Welcome to the 1 Foot Club. And that's a snowhawk.
That was Corey Reppenhagen on the weather beat.
We want to have snowball fights, and we want to sled. And if we have online school, then that pretty much takes away all of that.
Making the case for snow days in 2 parts from a very mature kid and a very immature adult. Next. You know, not everything that can be eliminated through technology deserves to go away. I'm talking about snow days. I don't fault the school districts that decide to do an all-remote learning day today instead of taking a snow day. You got kids that have lost a lot of class time this year, and the schools are under tremendous pressure to get in instruction. But man, I hope that we are not headed for a future where school districts completely replace snow days just because they can do remote learning days. Snow days are full of learning, and it's the yearning for them and the lamenting when they don't happen. They're essential parts of being young, anywhere where it snows. A lot has been asked of our students in the last 12 months. A lot has been taken from our students in the last 12 months. Let's make snow days again. Colorado's largest school district, Denver, had an all-remote learning day today instead of a snow day. We found some kids deciding to do their remote learning on a sled hill.
Due to winter weather and poor travel conditions,
this is snow.
Denver Public Schools will have a 100% remote learning day with live instruction for all students.
We should be having a snow day
on Thursday, February 25th.
Hello, my name is Charlie Carabetta. I'm 10 years old. I'm in 5th grade, and I go to Swagger Elementary School. I go. It's unfair that since COVID,
everyone for themselves,
it ruined social interaction.
Get him!
And now it's ruining snow days because we have to be online. So I logged on to my classroom. I told my entire class that we should go to the sledding hill and we should protest for no online school on snow days.
Oh.
We want to have snowball fights, and we want to like sled. And if we have online school, then that pretty much takes away all of that. And we have 180 days of school. It wouldn't hurt if we missed 2 or 3, right? Like, learning in school is different than being out here having fun. Snow days should become a thing again. Like, if we don't have snow days, it makes kids sad. And kids aren't good at sad.
Kids aren't good at sad. But how about him? I love that he logs on to the remote classroom and is like, follow me to freedom. That's fantastic. It's a snow day revolt through the lens of our photojournalist, Corky Scholl. A winter sport, newly invented, is the most Colorado thing we saw today. That and your feedback next.
Is your dog lethargic? Lying around the house watching local news? Ask your veterinarian about Snow. Snow renews dogs' energy. Big dogs, small dogs that think they're big dogs. Side effects of Snow include zoomies, more zoomies, burrowing zoomies, jumping zoomies, and wet paws in the house. Not on the couch. No, not on the couch. Fine, whatever. Snow, a natural stimulant for dogs. Ask your veterinarian if Snow is right for your dog today.
The most Colorado thing we saw today is a dog who created her own kind of winter sport. Layla goes frisbee sledding. That's what her human Rachel calls it. Layla's been frisbee sledding for a while. So front paws on the frisbee, zoomies in the back, downhill we go, and is now basically doing doggy black diamonds at Ruby Hill Park. That is actually pretty impressive. If you can train your dog to do that, I want to see it as well. Feedback tonight, a couple of you had the same thought. Mary Jo Hardy wrote in and said, why doesn't Colorado's Department of Labor and Employment hire some of the people applying for unemployment benefits to work their call center? Scott Murray had the same idea, said 2 problems, 1 solution. That's interesting. My guess is they're probably hiring people with call center experience, but you'd think if they're in the business of doing some employment training as well, they might be able to help people out. We'll ask about that. That's a good idea. And RB writes simply, orange is the new awful.